Hello there, Gamerinos and Gamerinas. Welcome to UnicornStorm. This is Rady, and today we are going to take a look at United Penguin Kingdom. It's a town builder colony management game following the style of The Settlers, or I guess Banished is the new benchmark nowadays. What that means is that instead of managing huge cities with thousands of inhabitants, distributing housing, commercial and industrial zones, and keeping overall statistics balanced, and where you are pretty far removed from the actual action, and mostly just observe and adjust, in these games you only have a handful of people working to grow a small village, and everything is done manually. You have to assign some of your inhabitants as builders to construct the buildings you need for pretty much anything. Some of your inhabitants need to take care of food production, some have to gather resources. Population isn't just a statistic in these games, and things don't just get done faster or slower depending on this number. But the actual villagers need to complete all their mundane tasks. They have to physically walk over from their home to their workplace. They have to carry materials to construction sites and start building, or venture into the forest and chop wood. Every villager needs food every day, so you need to have a steady supply and enough in your storage, and not an abstract, working food economy. There's a bit more micromanaging going on, and you have to be a bit more hands-on, and the layout of your settlement affects your villagers' efficiency and by that, the chance of survival a lot. United Penguin Kingdom follows up on most of these systems. You have to ensure your penguins' survival and grow your village. There isn't any actual fighting in the game, so you don't need to train guards and soldiers, but there are some dangers that require the construction of defensive structures. But those dangers are mostly just after your resources and not your lives. Though death is a real thing in this game and your penguins can and will die, ultimately to old age. So you need to keep a steady flow of new penguins coming in, either through reproduction or immigration. And population is everything in this game. You can't get anything done without anyone to do it. You need workers to build houses, fishers to gather food, lookouts to defend the settlement, researchers to discover new buildings. It's not as hardcore as many of its contemporaries though. This game is more streamlined. While production chains do exist in this game as well, they aren't as complicated, and one building or one job isn't dependent on 5 other buildings and jobs. And while you do have to gather food with a few different types available for different buildings, and you do have to gather resources like wood and stone amongst others, like garbage, you don't have to manage dwindling resources within the environment. You only have to construct the necessary building and assign workers, and you will gather resources until the end of time. Advanced buildings aren't dependent on complicated production chains, but are unlocked through a research tree. Well, not so much a tree, than a few short branches. Like I said, nothing in this game is dependent on too many other things. Nothing takes too many steps. And you'd think this would speed up the core gameplay, since you're not waiting for resources to be gathered, to be turned into different resources, to be mixed with other resources and refined and altered again to be finally used for your advanced workshops and factories at the end of the production line. But no, you just have to wait for a different resource. Research points. And since every building aside from the essentials requires research points, you are waiting quite a bit for those to accumulate and can only unlock one building at a time. I guess if they were grouped together into unlockable categories, it would be a bit less monotonous. I mean, of course, you could just build more research centers, but that's not very efficient, is it? Later researchers increased the point requirement dramatically, so at that point you need better research facilities and enough penguins to work in those. Another thing that slows down progression is how the game handles village expansion. To even have access to better researchers, you need to upgrade your village into a city and further on. But this can only be done during the evaluation at the end of the year, and only if you hit the required milestones. So if you barely missed your goals at the end of the year, well, too bad. You have to go another round until you get another chance. Don't think that's a great idea, since then you're stuck with the limited selection of buildings and technology you most likely have already fully unlocked at that point, and continue to encounter challenges you can't efficiently overcome yet, since the technology isn't available to you yet. Killer whales being the most egregious thing in that regard, since the defensive structures to battle them efficiently can only be researched in higher tier settlements. So you just have to sit out the constant attacks until you are finally allowed to defend yourself. It's not that bad though. Again, there is no real combat in the game and nothing attacks your penguins directly. They can grow old and die, and they can get sick when they wander around for too long in this climate change ridden world. So you have to build coolers to keep them from overheating, and of course they need to be fed, but as long as you constantly expand, you can move forward. It just might become a bit tedious. But for what it is, it's a fun little colony builder in a cute setting. If you just casually enjoy these sorts of games, like me, then this will be quite the enjoyable experience, but don't expect a complicated simulation. There are stats like happiness and education which affect the working efficiency of a penguin, but these don't require too much management. Just build enough leisure activities and schools and you're good. So yeah, a fun little more casual colony sim that doesn't take the setting far enough, but still stays at least visually interesting. Check it out if that's something you're into. And with that, I wish you the greatest of days. This has been Rady, and I hope to see you again on the next game.